Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays it's all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend we still keep it to 5 minutes, of course, but we're going to pick out the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, and then our favourite business-ish story. Let's jump straight into it. What was the biggest story of the week?
Oh, for me, it's the rise of the Commonwealth Bank. This week it unveiled a better than expected cash profit of nearly $10 billion, upped its dividend. The business is doing well. The all-important net interest margin, the difference between what a bank pays on deposits and receives on loans, was steady in a competitive environment. That's pretty good. The bank's not putting as much money aside for potential bad loans in the future. That shows its confidence. It's winning customers. About 36% of Australians now say the CommBank is their primary financial institution. Being great for shareholders as well, even though most professional analysts think it's overvalued. Its share price is up 30% over the past year. And for most shareholders, the $2.50 a share final dividend takes the full year dividend to $4.65 fully franked. If you've held the stock for more than a year, then you're getting a dividend yield of 5% plus. It's got a market valuation of $222 billion, more than the combined value of the next two biggest banks, NAB and Westpac. Can it keep going? I don't know. But for this week at least, it's quite an incredible story.
Yeah, massive story this week. Big story as well in jobs, Sean. This week we learned that there were 58,000 new jobs created last month in the economy, more than was expected. The unemployment rate, though, still climbed to 4.2%, the highest since November 2021, and that's because there's a record number of people looking for a job. So the jobs market is cooling, but not a lot. The thing is, there's a lot of people coming into the workforce, pushed up by an influx of migrant workers, but the labour market, it seems, is still strong enough to absorb it. It's a big week for economic data this week. Overall, it's just been a big week for news, hasn't it?
Sure has. Michael, your most remarkable story.
Well, my most remarkable story is, it's remarkable but not in a good way. It's the extraordinary gap in literacy and numeracy between kids from wealthy families compared to kids from less well-off homes. The results are from the 2024 NAPLAN test. They're really just, frankly, shocking because there is this enormous gap in skills and competency between the rich and the poor in reading, writing, spelling, grammar, punctuation, numeracy, not just 1 year, across all grades. The states spend about $40 billion on schools each year. The federal government a touch over $25 billion. They are set to hammer out a new funding agreement this year, a big argument over who's going to pay for the programs that are needed to get kids up to speed. But just some of these stats are just damning. 1 in 10 kids overall are below the standard, but it's 1 in 3 kids from poor families, 1 in 3 kids from the bush, and 1 in 3 Indigenous kids. Big opportunity this year to fix the funding model and hopefully rectify some of those problems, Sean.
Sure is. Now, can I tell you my sleeper story?
Oh, yes, please.
So profits have dominated the week. I've told you about Commonwealth Bank. Goodman Group delivered a higher than expected profit. CSL said its plasma collection business is back on track. The real surprises have come from some of the retailers, namely JB Hi-Fi and Temple and Webster. JB Hi-Fi, its share price jumped 10% after its financial year result. It announced a big special dividend to shareholders. It just keeps selling stuff. Then Temple and Webster said sales jumped 26% last financial year. Its share price went up 23%. About 30% of its sales are now private brand, which are more profitable. This is all coming as the economics news suggests households are struggling and retailers are suffering. Now, some are. Nick Scali came out and said they're struggling to sell big ticket items. But some of the retailers and the really well-managed retailers are still selling stuff to people. I reckon the economy maybe isn't slowing quite as much as we thought based on what these retailers are saying. Really interesting to watch. What about you, Michael? Your sleeper story?
A quick little mention, Sean, of Telstra. This week. Everyone was talking, there's a bit of bad news. The results showed that there was a 13% drop in Telstra's net profit to $1.79 billion. A lot of talk about the enterprise part of the business that provides kind of services to government and large companies being written down by more than $300 million. Things like kind of phone handsets and other equipment in fixed enterprise, those earnings tumbled. But the sleeper story, and it's kind of like a sleeper story in inverted commas here, Sean, it is that mobile phones are booming, and the Telstra's mobile phone part of its business is absolutely soaring. It boosted its earnings by 9% last year, 560,000 new mobile customers, and that rise in earnings actually came before Telstra upped its prices, so it's probably going to get even better. But we are tending to focus on the bad news at the moment, but there is actually a really good story hidden within it.
Good story, that one.
Now, favourite story. I know you've got a cracker for us, Sean. Go for it.
I do. All about the world of chess. This week we found out that a Russian chess champion has been suspended after poisoning her childhood rival ahead of a match. She apparently smeared mercury all over her pieces. A woman called Amina Bakarova walked into the room. This is according to a story in the Daily Telegraph of London. Security footage captures the moment she went in where the tournament was to take place in southern Russia. She appeared to be making preparations for the poisoning. She's looking around. She casually approaches her opponent's table, takes something from her bag, seemingly a vial, smears the contents onto the board and some of her opponent's pieces. Now, her opponent, she suffered severe dizziness and nausea soon after the game began and required medical attention. A judge from the tournament reported the incident to police. CCTV footage seemed to confirm what the allegations are. Still to be tried, of course. Fascinating little story. The world of chess is full of these stories. Even if the game's not interesting, Michael, the people around it are fascinating.
There's a bizarre sense of theatre around it all, isn't there? And
there is.
Little stories like that certainly do a lot to encourage that. Sean, there we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business and chess. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow and join us online on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.